Good morning. We are glad to have all of you that are here with us in person, and all of you who are participating with us a lot on the internet. We appreciate that you're here, and those of you who are going to watch this later, we appreciate you showing up to watch it later. So we are going to take just a minute or so and kind of get centered and bring our attention back to right here and let go of everything that's happened so far this morning or things that are going to happen later. So if you would, if you feel comfortable, go ahead and close your eyes. Take a nice deep breath in and slowly release. Take another nice deep breath in and release. And one more deep breath in. And release. Take just a moment to clear your mind of all the things that have already happened today. Clear your mind of your to-do list, of what your expectations are for later in the day. Bring yourself right here to this present moment. Feel the seat underneath you. Feel the temperature in the room. Take a deep breath in and release. We are so grateful for the opportunity we have to come together as a community. We're grateful for the love and the respect that we have for each other. We're grateful for the opportunity to come in with an open mind and be willing to be changed by what we hear. And we are grateful and we say thank you, and so it is. Amen. Hi, Elvie. Good morning. How are you? All right. So, with Earth Day coming up, what we wanted to do was talk about reduce, reuse, recycling, to kind of bring that back into the front of our minds, and the different ways that we can, as a community and as individuals, really think about what we do every single day. I came across this amazing woman showed up at one of our Earth Day events. Her name is Louise Mann. Louise has been fighting the fight for the environment for 30 years. And I'm not sure how she found us, but she showed up at one of our Earth Day events and she and I connected. And this woman is just a wealth of information that I cannot even begin to tell you. Just blew my mind, some of the things that she came up with. But that, you know, it's one of those things, especially with this, you don't know what you don't know. And then when you do know, though, you do things different. And so one of the things that she brought was this little video. It's on YouTube, and we're only gonna, it's like a 20-minute video. We're gonna watch about 10 minutes just because I don't want to spend all 20 minutes of it. But I really encourage you to go on YouTube and watch the entire thing. It's called The Story of Stuff, and it's absolutely amazing. It kind of gives us an idea of how we got where we are right now. The steps that we don't see, the things that we don't pay attention to behind the scenes that got us in the predicament that we are. And so we're just, like I said, we're gonna watch about 10 minutes of it. Can you hear it okay?
One of these, I got a little obsessed with mine. In fact, I got a little obsessed with all my stuff. Have you ever wondered where all the stuff we buy comes from and where it goes when we throw it out? I couldn't stop wondering about that, so I looked it up. And what the textbook said is that stuff moves through a system from extraction to production to distribution to consumption to disposal. All together, it's called the materials economy. Well, I looked into it a little bit more. In fact, I spent 10 years traveling the world, tracking where our stuff comes from and where it goes. And you know what I found out? That is not the whole story. There is a lot missing from this explanation. For one thing, this system looks like it's fine. No problem. But the truth is, it's a system in crisis. And the reason it's a system in crisis is it's a linear system and we live on a finite planet. And you cannot run a linear system on a finite planet indefinitely. Every step along the way, this system is interacting with the real world. In real life, it's not happening on a blank white page. It's interacting with societies, cultures, economies, the environment. And all along the way, it's bumping up against limits. Limits we don't see here because the diagram is incomplete. So let's go back through. Let's fill in some of the blanks and see what's missing. Well, one of the most important things that's missing is people. Yes, people. People live and work all along this system. And some people in this system matter a little more than others. Some have a little more say. Who are they? Well, let's start with the government. Now, my friends tell me I should use a tank to symbolize the government, and that's true in many countries and increasingly in our own. After all, more than 50% of our federal tax money is now going to the military. But I'm using a person to symbolize the government because I hold true to the vision and values the government should be of the people, by the people, for the people. It's the government's job to watch out for us, to take care of us. That's their job. Then along came the corporation. Now, the reason the corporation looks bigger than the government is that the corporation is bigger than the government. Of the 100 largest economies on Earth now, 51 are corporations. And as the corporation has grown in size and power, we've seen a little change in the government, where they're a little more concerned in making sure everything's working out for those guys than for us. Okay, so let's see what else is missing from this picture. We'll start with extraction, which is a fancy word for natural resource exploitation, which is a fancy word for trashing the planet. What this looks like is we chop down the trees, we blow up mountains to get the metals inside, we use up all the water, and we wipe out the animals. So here, we are running up against our first limit. We are running out of resources. We are using too much stuff. Now, I know this can be hard to hear, but it's the truth, so we've got to deal with it. In the past 3 decades alone, 1/3 of the planet's natural resource base has been consumed. Gone. We are cutting and mining and hauling and trashing the place so fast that we're undermining the planet's very ability for people to live here. Where I live, in the United States, we have less than 4% of our original forests left. 40% of the waterways have become undrinkable. And our problem is not just that we're using too much stuff, but we're using more than our share. We have 5% of the world's population, but we're using 30% of the world's resources and creating 30% of the world's waste. If everybody consumed at US rates, we would need 3 to 5 planets. And you know what? We've only got 1. So my country's response to this limitation is simply to go take somebody else's. This is the third world, which some would say is another word for our stuff that somehow got on somebody else's land. So what does that look like? The same thing, trashing the place. 75% of global fisheries now are fished at or beyond capacity. 80% of the planet's original forests are gone. In the Amazon alone, we're losing 2,000 trees a minute. That is 7 football fields a minute. And what about the people who live here? Well, according to these guys, they don't own these resources, even if they've been living there for generations. They don't own the means of production, and they're not buying a lot of stuff. And in this system, if you don't own or buy a lot of stuff, you don't have value. So next, the materials move to production. And what happens there is we use energy to mix toxic chemicals in with the natural resources to make toxic contaminated products. There are over 100,000 synthetic chemicals in use in commerce today. Only a handful of them have even been tested for health impacts, and none have been tested for synergistic health impacts. That means when they interact with all the other chemicals we're exposed to every day. So we don't know the full impact on health and the environment of all these toxic chemicals, but we do know one thing: toxics in, toxics out. As long as we keep putting toxics into our industrial production systems, we're going to keep getting toxics in the stuff that we bring into our homes and workplaces and schools, and our bodies. Like BFRs, brominated flame retardants, they're a chemical that make things more fireproof, but they are super toxic. They're a neurotoxin. That means toxic to the brain. What are we even doing using a chemical like this? Yet we put it in our computers, our appliances, couches, mattresses, even some pillows. In fact, we take our pillows, we douse them in a neurotoxin, then we bring them home and put our heads on them for 8 hours a night to sleep. I don't know, but it seems to me in this country with so much potential, we could think of a better way to stop our heads from catching on fire at night. Now, these toxics build up the food chain and concentrate in our bodies. Do you know what is the food at the top of the food chain with the highest level of many toxic contaminants? Human breast milk. That means that we've reached a point where the smallest members of our societies, our babies, are getting the highest lifetime dose of toxic chemicals from breastfeeding from their mothers. Is that not an incredible violation? Breastfeeding must be the most fundamental human act of nurturing. It should be sacred and safe. Now, breastfeeding is still best, and mothers should definitely keep breastfeeding, but we should protect it. They should protect it. I thought they were looking out for us. And of course, the people who bear the biggest brunt of these toxic chemicals are the factory workers, many of whom are women of reproductive age. They're working with reproductive toxins, carcinogens, and more. Now I ask you, what kind of woman of reproductive age would work in a job exposed to reproductive toxins, except for a woman with no other option? And that's one of the beauties of this system. The erosion of local environments and economies here shows a constant supply of people with no other option. Globally, 200,000 people a day are moving from environments that have sustained them for generations into cities, many to live in slums, looking for work, no matter how toxic that work may be. So you see, it's not just resources that are wasted along this system, but people too. Whole communities get wasted. Yep, toxics in, toxics out. A lot of the toxics leave the factories in products, but even more leave as byproducts or pollution. And it's a lot of pollution. In the US, our industry admits to releasing over 4 billion pounds of toxic chemicals a year. And it's probably a lot more because that's only what they admit. So that's another limit, because yuck, who wants to look at and smell 4 billion pounds of toxic chemicals a year? So what do? Move the dirty factories overseas, pollute someone else's land. But surprise, a lot of that pollution is coming right back at us, carried by wind currents. So what happens after all these natural resources are turned into products? Well, it moves here for distribution. Now, distribution means selling all the toxic contaminated junk as quickly as possible. The goal here is to keep the prices down, keep the people buying, and keep the inventory moving. How do they keep the prices down? Well, they don't pay the store workers very much, and they skimp on health insurance every time they can. It's all about externalizing the costs. What that means is that the real costs of making stuff aren't captured in the price. In other words, we aren't paying for the stuff we buy. I was thinking about this the other day. I was walking to work and I wanted to listen to the news, so I popped into a Radio Shack to buy a radio. I found this cute little green radio for $4.99. I was standing there in line to buy this thing, and I was thinking, how could $4.99 possibly capture the cost of making this radio and getting it into my hands? The metal was probably mined in South Africa. The petroleum was probably drilled in Iraq. The plastics were probably produced in China. And maybe the whole thing was assembled by some 15-year-old in a maquiladora in Mexico. $4.99 wouldn't even pay the rent for the shelf space it occupied until I came along, let alone part of the staff guy's salary who helped me pick it out, or the multiple ocean cruises and truck rides pieces of this radio went on. That's how I realized I didn't pay for the radio. So who did pay? Well, these people paid with the loss of their natural resource space. These people paid with the loss of their clean air, with increasing asthma and cancer rates. Kids in the Congo paid with their future. 30% of the kids in part of the Congo have dropped out of school to mine coltan, a metal we need for our cheap and disposable electronics. These people even paid by having to cover their own health insurance. All along this system, people pitched in so I could get this radio for $4.99. And none of these contributions are recorded in any accounts book. That's what I mean by the company owners externalize the true cost of production. And that brings us to the golden arrow of consumption.
Okay.
This is the heart of the system, the engine that drives it. It is so important that protecting this arrow.
I'm just gonna turn it off. All right.
What YouTube channel was that? Sorry.
It was on YouTube. It's called The Story of Stuff.
Okay.
That was a lot to unpack, wasn't it? That was a lot. And I wanted us to see that so that we understand the impact of what we do. You know, one of the things that Louis said that I thought that just made a huge impact on me was that we are addicted to convenience. I mean, we are addicted to convenience. And my grandson, who's 7, he'll have a question about something, and he goes, "Search it up, Pa." And so we just look it up on Google, and instantly you have an answer. They're growing up in this world where you automatically just have an answer. We have fast food, where when we're too tired or we're too busy, we just run through, we get fast food, and it's right there.
You don't have to leave your house, you can just order.
Exactly. You can get online, you can order, you can drive your car up, they'll put your groceries in your car, or you can call Amazon and they'll deliver everything right there to your house. You don't even have to leave your house. You know, what other kind of conveniences, what other things are we addicted to as far as convenience goes? What other conveniences? Travel?
Spirituality.
Explain.
Spirituality. You are able to mindlessly and endlessly scroll the internet on message boards and Pinterest and all of these different things and consume pithy 1-sentence, 2-sentence memes and internalize it and say, this is right, this is all I need to know about being a good person. You know, like you read an affirmation and yeah, like it adds positive stuff to your life, but pretending that seeing spiritual stuff in a 10-second increment is a replacement for a true understanding and like journey inward is a trap more than anything else.
Good point.
Yeah, I mean, on that note, like just.
Go ahead, Misty.
Hello. Just kind of like with the screens and stuff, just like the convenience of like not being bored, just being able to like constantly entertain yourself and not have to ever like sit in the uncomfortableness of like
Sit with yourself.
not having anything to do.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Absolutely.
that's a big problem for especially our youth, like you say, that are growing up, with this, and they have all of this quick entertainment, right there, and these little snippets, and they don't ever have the time to like be with themselves.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we go to the grocery store and they have things cut up for you, so you don't have to cut them up when you get home. They're already cut up for you and everything's ready to go. All these packaged meals that are convenient. They take, you take them home, you freeze them, or you just bring them home, you stick them in the microwave, stick them in the oven, and they're done in minutes. And what else comes with those things?
Well,
Preservatives.
Preservatives, poison.
right, when you're talking about the inside parts of the store where everything is pre-packaged and pre-done, if you read the ingredients, it's just like, if you could pronounce everything that's in there,
Yes.
you're quite skilled.
Yes. And then you've got all of the packaging, the single-use plastic.
I was thinking
Hang on.
clothes. It's just so people aren't like confused. Yeah, oh, it's okay. I was thinking clothes too, and I read
Absolutely.
about the, well, you know, you can't make it for what you can buy it for. And then I was reading something interesting about the vibration or that quality that the clothes have. And it's the cotton that is the same vibration as us, and all of these synthetic are a lot lower. So our skin's our biggest organ, and it is just, you know, bringing us down just by the clothes that we wear.
Interesting. So we are. We
If you want to.
yes.
It was, I
Oh,
offered
okay.
to Mike Jockey.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so like I said, I wanted to get down. I wanted to look at this and think about why it is that we're recycling, what it is that we are doing with the choices that we make every day. So there's so much information out there, and so I want to break it down to just a couple of things that we're going to talk about mostly today. And the first one, of course, is plastic, because plastic is the biggest problem that we have right now with waste. We look at the bottoms of things. We buy things in plastic, and we look at the bottoms to look at the little symbol and look at the number on it to see how it recycles or where it recycles. Most of us have, if we recycle, we have bins that we have at our house. We throw everything in the bin, and then they come and they take it. And then we feel like we're really contributing and we're doing the right thing. But what I found out from talking to Louise is the garbage hauling industry has made that really convenient for us, because who wins if we're producing waste? The garbage haulers are to like $60-70 billion a year that they're making from us hauling garbage. So when we start using renewable energy, when we start using reducing, reusing, repurposing, recycling, they're losing profit shares, they're losing revenue. So they decided they were going to get in on the whole deal with the big companies. They're going to get in on it, and they're going to start helping us recycle. And so they come to this just one bin, single stream recycling. And so you throw everything in there, and then they come and get it. I read a story the other day about, and I can't remember what state it was, but somebody sued one of the cities because the trash haulers were offering trash hauling and recycling. You're not having to pay extra for the recycling, but they were just taking everything and throwing it in the landfills. And somebody sued and said, wait, no, we're paying for recycling, and they're not recycling it, they're just throwing it in the landfills. Well, the judge said, you're not paying extra for recycling. So they're not at fault for that. There have been several times where we have watched the trash haulers come pick our bin up and dump it, recycling, and dump it in the same bin. And I'm sure that happens probably a lot more often. Not only that, but what happens is when you throw everything in together, everything is contaminated. You start throwing all of these recyclables together, and people are not washing them out properly, and then all of the paper is completely contaminated. It's completely useless. All of the plastics have got paper stuck, and all of this, everything's contaminated. So anything that's contaminated, once it goes to the recycle center, they pitch it and it goes in the landfill. Because basically what they want is they want the profit from you're paying for recycling, and the gas and oil industry, who are helping with making plastic. What they want is they want you to continue to buy plastic. So they have been pushing the whole recycle thing. There are a lot of things that you come up with when you watch something about recycling. Check your source. See where that information is coming from, and if that information is coming from organizations who actually make plastic, don't pay attention to what they're saying, because a lot of them are just telling you what they want you to hear. So you're going to feel good, and you're going to pat yourself on the back and say, we're doing a good thing, and continue to recycle, but you're also not going to do anything about the amount of plastic that we're putting into the environment over and over. Now, Greg.
They offloaded in like the 70s or whatever the morality cost of recycling, in that they ran tons of ad campaigns saying the onus is on you, the individual, to save the planet by recycling, rather than look at them and say, wow, you're the main producer and you're the problem. They successfully got everyone thinking that my neighbor not recycling is the issue, and they are saving the earth, completely bypassing the petroleum manufacturers and the petroleum distribution network itself.
Yeah, that's exactly it. They're going to put it all back on us, and it's our responsibility, and it's our problem. If the earth is being polluted, it's our problem, because we're not recycling. We're not doing what we're supposed to do. And that was one of the things that Louise said. She said, we've been led to believe that our current rate of consumption is just fine as long as there is a recycling outfit for all of our waste, and we can consume and toss, and that's the mantra for all of those who profit when we make waste, which is exactly what Greg said. They put it all back on us. So the oil and the gas companies, since they're going, so many things and so many people are going to renewable energies, they're also losing revenue. They're losing profit sharing. So they're trying to figure out how to get that back. And so what they're doing now is they are making cracker factories. Has anybody heard of that? I know Louis said cracker factories, and I'm thinking salty. Yeah, and I'm thinking, and it's like, so here's what this is. A cracker plant is they drill. It's like the fracking to get down to the natural gas, and the ethane. That's the first step when they process and they make plastics. So they go down and they get this ethane, and then they separate the ethane from the natural gas to produce ethylene. And that ethylene, the plant uses some extreme heat to crack the molecules that bond the ethane and produce ethylene. So that's where you get cracker factory. And the ethylene is processed into resin, and it's used to make these little tiny pellets called nurdles. And those are shipped all around the world to make different kinds of plastic. The thing is, these cracker plants are going into low-income, black and brown communities. If you look at where they are, they're along the border in Texas, Louisiana, they're up in Ohio, in industrial in Pennsylvania. Remember the train derailment that just happened? That's what they were hauling. So they're going into these poor communities, especially a lot of these communities up in the north northern Midwest. These were places where they had factories. They had a lot of industries. So they go into these places, and they promise jobs. Boy, man, they had 6,000 workers to make this big plant that they made in Beaver County in Pennsylvania. 6,000 workers to do that. And then it promised 600 great paying jobs. And within the first month, all of a sudden they're seeing a bright glow orange glow, and something's going on in this plant. And what they're finding out is that in these cracker plants, people have higher rates of cancer and neurological diseases, respiratory diseases, asthma attacks. The kids are suffering from all of the pollutants that are in these. But they want you to continue to consume the plastic that's coming from this. The little nurdles are getting, they say that they're completely safe. We're not, we make sure that it doesn't get out and it's not going into the environment, but they're finding them over and over and over again in the waterways. When they're in the waterways there, they become waterways into the ocean. So, I know that we're people who cares what happens to other people. We are. That's part of the reason we're at this church, is that we care about, we care about what happens to other people. And so, we want to make a difference. We want to do things differently in our daily lives to stop that consumption. And, I know this gets really heavy. Sometimes that heaviness is what makes me wash out my sour cream container instead of just tossing it. Or when I go to the grocery store, it stops me from buying something that's wrapped in single-use plastic. And it makes me think about that and go, I'm gonna buy this, and I'm gonna buy a big jar of applesauce for my granddaughter, and instead of the little convenient ones that are in single-use plastic. Yes, Dawn.
I can't help wondering if we're not talking about treating a cancer with a Band-Aid.
That's exactly what we're doing.
Then it's a hopeless thing.
Mm-hmm.
If a Band-Aid will not cure cancer, it's something else. Something else is going to have to happen.
And that's exactly it, Dawn. It's we as the consumers have to make demands of the companies. And the way we do that, we've watched over and over and over again where people have boycotted things and the companies have changed the way they do things. And that's where it starts, is for us as consumers to say, I'm not buying this anymore. I'm not, the manufacturers of like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, all of these corporations who are mass producing plastic bottles for their products. If we stop buying the plastic bottles, we start buying them in aluminum cans that are recyclable. We buy them in glass. If they offer it in glass, we buy it in glass. Glass is completely 100% recyclable. It takes the least amount of energy to recycle. It's 100% recyclable. Remember, when I was a kid, my little brother and I would go around in the bottles, soda bottles. You would collect them, and then you would take them to the grocery store, and they would give you money.
5 cents.
5 cents for 5 cents for a bottle, right? That's where we got our candy money. You didn't,
I bought my senior ring. My folks didn't want me to have one, so I bought it, but taking bottles over to the little candy store across from the school.
Yeah. Dee said she bought her senior ring. For those of you who are online, Dee bought her senior ring by collecting bottles and taking them into the candy store and getting the deposit back. If we start making changes like that, because there are states where you can still take a soda bottle back in and you can get a deposit for it. Michigan, yes, is one, and Vermont, and you still get that. So those are things that we can do as consumers to make demands on the corporations and put it back on them, which is where it belongs. It belongs is they need to do things differently, but we as consumers have to do things differently as well in order to make that change. Okay, so one of the things that I thought was absolutely astonishing, you know, plastic came about in the 1950s. All of the plastic that has ever been manufactured, unless it's been incinerated, is still here. From the 1950s, every bit of it is still here. When you get plastic ends up in the waterways. It doesn't break down in the waterways. What happens is that it starts to deteriorate into these little tiny microparticles. And these microparticles are in the ocean, and then the fish eat them. And then the fish eat each other, and then guess who eats the fish? We do. So where do you think those little microparticles end up? They end up in us. And Dawn, like you said, it's a Band-Aid, because we're ingesting this plastic, which is making us sick. Yes?
Yeah, there's also, some of the coral reefs are part plastic now.
Yes, part of the coral reefs. Yeah. So, it also talked about the plastic BPA. You guys heard of it? Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, Steve.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I missed the first part of your talk, so maybe you talked about this, but I thought sometime back I heard about a microbe that had been developed that eats plastic. Am I wrong about, has anyone else heard that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
It's the microbe fungus. There's a whole bunch of, research and...
Okay, so maybe that's part of a solution.
You know, and that may be part of the solution. And again, it's not just about the amount that we have in the environment. It's about all of the resources that we use in order to develop it. It's about all of the chemicals that we use to develop that and put that back in the environment. It's all of the health costs of the workers that are handling all these chemicals, and they're in the communities that are dealing with all of the chemicals that are there to produce it. I read, take a guess how many gallons of water it takes to produce a pair of jeans. Just somebody take a guess. 50.
That's what I was gonna say.
Anybody else have a guess? Let me say this. That is way low. Somebody else take a guess.
200.
1,000.
That's closer. 1,500 gallons of water
Oh my gosh.
to manufacture a pair of jeans. I know. I was like, wait, what? But then you stop and you think about, where does that water go after they use it? All of the dyes that they use, that they have to use, that goes into their environment. You know, there are companies that I was really surprised. There's a company called Reform Brand. They make women's clothing. Reform Brand are trying to be much more sustainable in the way the production of their clothing, the fibers that they use to make their clothing, so that they don't break down, because when we wash our clothes, the fibers that are in our clothes break down and then they end up in the waterways. So that's why you start thinking about, somebody was talking about cotton, Jean was talking about cotton. When you look at the clothing that you buy, look at the ingredients. There's also an ingredient that Tencel, it's Tencel, and that's a brand name of a fiber that they use to make clothing. Kind of like, Band-Aids is a brand name for bandages. And so this is a brand name for a fiber. But this fiber that they're using for clothing, they're making it much more sustainably. They're making sure that all of everything that they use for the dyes and things, all of that water and all is repurposed and recycled. So that's just something to think about when you start looking at clothing. So you look at the tag to see what it's made of, that's a much better product. Or cotton or linen. Okay, running out of time. Okay, so, yes, Wendy.
I am not, when I speak this, I am not against bringing this information to people and understanding this information. But in the same way that we're looking in depth at the cause of the material deterioration, I would just suggest that as we're listening to these things, we remember that the true cause behind any of these things, behind anybody that are making these decisions, comes from a belief in a world that's not safe, in a world where we have to have something more, in a world that that is scary, and I would and I know that my reason for coming to this church comes from because of the understanding that I get from metaphysics here that begins to take away that fear, so that I just want to love, and I want to envision something more of everyone I see. And my suggestion just is that, not that getting this information is not wonderful, to help us to make a decision, but if in preparing this information, it makes us go to a place where we start, I hear you keep saying they do this and they do this. There is no they. True. It is just us. Mm-hmm. And the minute that I separate myself from these people who are doing these horrible things, and I become a crusader against them, I become part of it. I just add to all that is there. But if I can take this information and move it into a heart of love that knows that is the true, when Don was saying, putting a Band-Aid, he was talking about the cancer of non-love and them and us out there. And so just to take this information and put it into a heart that really sees that we're all one.
Thank you, Wendy.
The action follows the mindset, right? It's not like, oh, you recycle and that makes you better. You are better, and so you recycle, or you are better and you're more mindful.
Mm-hmm. Right. So let's talk about some of the things that we can do, some of the decisions that we can make within our daily lives to do things differently. Down on South Campbell, right there, if you go all the way downtown on South Campbell, there's a soap refill station. You can take your containers that you already have, go in there, and they've got big vats of anything you can imagine as far as soap, laundry detergent. They have regular bars of soap. They have no packaging. You just buy the actual bar of soap. You fill your containers, and then you pay for that. It's called the soap refill station. We went down there and got baby soap for our grandson when he was little, and it was a big container. And I brought it home, and I think it was like $38. And my wife was like, "Oh my gosh, we finally used the last of it last year." We don't have him every day, of course, but still, it lasted that long for $38. And he's 7.
Yes. Do they do like shampoo and
shampoo, conditioner, all of that stuff, tinctures? They've got anything you can imagine that goes along with any type of soap. You can refill it down there. You just take whatever you want to take down there. A mason jar, whatever you happen to have. If you bought shampoo and you still have the pump bottle, wash it out, take it down there, and they will refill it with theirs. And most of the stuff that they have is biodegradable, it's organic, and it doesn't have a lot of chemicals and additives in it. So that's a great thing that we can do. Stop using water bottles, plastic water bottles. Buy reusable water bottles. If you buy a water bottle that is plastic, make sure that it's BPA free, because that BPA is the chemical they put on it to make it last longer. But that leaches into whatever you put in it, especially if whatever you put into it is warm. Don't leave them. If you do have a plastic water bottle, don't leave it in your car. because that heat will leach into whatever is in that bottle. Don't heat things in the microwave in plastic. Take it out of the plastic, put it in something glass. Buy glass containers to put things in. You know, we reuse my sour cream bowl. I will use that, wash it out, and use that over and over and over again, and to put stuff in the refrigerator. But when we actually buy something, we buy glass containers to store things in, because there is no such thing as a way. When you throw something away, there is no such thing as a way. It doesn't go anywhere. It's still here. So when we think about that, when we purchase things, like glass or plastic cups or plates or anything that we have, at some point we're gonna get rid of it, and it doesn't go away. There is no such thing as a way. When you go to Starbucks, you know, during COVID they wouldn't let you use your reusable cups. Now they're allowing you to use your reusable mugs again. Take those in. When you go to a restaurant, take a little container, stick it in a bag. Bring your own container for your leftovers. Because how many times do you ask for leftovers and you get styrofoam to put that in? Styrofoam never ever goes away. So get yourself a little container, a little glass container that seals well. They have these great little metal ones that seal really well, and take that with you when you go to a restaurant, so that you can use that instead of the recycling things. Stop asking for straws. I can't remember how many millions of tons of straws that there are. Just stop using straws, or we've got just the really hard plastic ones, and we reuse those. Stop asking for cutlery. I brought something today. It's called to-go-ware. That you can take it with you. It's made out of bamboo. It's got the knife, the fork, the spoon. Some of them have chopsticks in them.
I have chopsticks.
In them. I've got a straw, a big heavy-duty straw that I put in there, and so that I have that with me, and that's in my purse all the time. That way I don't ever use their cutlery, and I don't have to get a straw every time I need a straw. Swiffers, you know, the throwaway pads or the disposable wipes. Instead of using that, we use the pads that you can just wash them and then put them back on there, and we use these all the time instead of using the ones that you can throw away. When instead of paper towels, this is a tough one. Instead of paper towels, we get t-shirts, old t-shirts that we're not going to use anymore, and we cut them up, and we use those as rags, or old towels, washcloths, anything that you can use that you can use as a rag. Use those instead of paper towels. What I did notice is we had to stop buying paper towels, because if you got them, we're addicted to convenience. If you've got them, you're going to use them. But we completely stopped using paper towels. Every once in a while, when we go to a restaurant, we'll get a few of the napkins in case we have to clean up dog poop in the house or something, you know, because we don't want to throw our rags away. And cloth napkins. We always use cloth napkins at home. We never use paper towels. We never use regular napkins. We always use cloth napkins. At the yard sale, there will always be napkins. Somebody always brings napkins. So check that out when the yard sale comes, and use those. When you go to the farmer's market to buy your fresh produce, they don't have it all prepackaged. It's just all of the produce and everything is just laying out there. You just pick it up. Don't use the bags when you go to the grocery store. You go to the produce, you don't need to put it in a bag. If you do put it in a bag, take it home, wash it, and then take it back with you. Stick it in your reusable bag that you're going to take with you to the grocery store. put that back in there, and then if you do need to put something in, you already have it. Wash Ziploc baggies. A box of Ziploc baggies will last us years because you can wash them unless they have a hole in them or the little Ziploc thing messes up. You can reuse those over and over again. We've got a little thing hanging up above our sink that's got little spindles sticking up, and we just wash them and hang them up there to dry, and you can use them over and over and over again. We also use, instead of Kleenexes or tissues, same thing. Get t-shirts, cut them up into little bitty chunks like this, and we use those as tissues to blow. We have gone through a lot of those with sinus infections and things, all of the sinus stuff that's been going. We use a lot of those, but they work great. Then you just toss them, use them once, use them twice, toss them in the laundry, and then fold them up and put them back in the box. Let's see. Buy secondhand. We talked about the clothing industry, and the clothing industry is one of the biggest things that go in our landfill. There are billions of pounds of clothing goes into the landfills. They produce over 6 billion pieces of clothing a year. Billion a year, because of this fast fashion industry. And they were talking about H&M, the H&M store, that they put new products out every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. They put brand new products out and switch things around. Buy secondhand. There are all kinds of stores. There are resale stores that you can buy. Nothing I have on other than underclothes did I buy at a store. Everything that I own is pretty much is bought at resale stores of some type. And wear your stuff out. The fashion industry has got us convinced that we have to have these latest fashions, and then if you're not wearing the most current one, then people know that you're wearing stuff that you've used for a long time. But there's nothing wrong with that. We have to make that, yes, we have to make that different. So what else? Somebody tell me some other things that we can do.
When I was in New Mexico,
hang on, Jean, grab the mic.
When I was in New Mexico, I thought it was really wonderful. They had legislated, and I think that is at some point where if you really want to, make a real change in getting people aware. But they are so conscious there of their environment that if you use a plastic bag, you're going to pay for it.
Yes.
And so there are things like that you can do, and I think that you always take it to the next level. Personally, yeah, but you can always
bring it. Yeah, make it an issue.
Legislation can go a long way towards mandating and forcing accountability for people.
Two things that we've done is we use the laundry detergent that's in sheets, and the box is biodegradable, and we prefer that product now. And another thing that we did is we stopped using K-cups, and we started using. We have a disposable K-cup that we still use in the machine, although I use an espresso machine and grind my own beans. So those are two things that we've done just in the past year.
And I brought that because we do the same thing, James, with the laundry detergent.
I love those laundry detergent sheets.
This is True Earth, and it just comes in sheets. And actually, on your table, there's an envelope, and it's got some information that Louise brought. And there's one of these sheets is in there for you. You can try it out and use it, but then it just comes in this envelope, and then you just recycle the envelope. There's also a notebook that is post-consumer. Now, there's a difference between recycled and post-consumer. The recycled paper is stuff that has been cut and fallen on the floor in the shop. They pick it up, they put it back in the vats, they remix it, and they make more paper out of it. Post-consumer means that this came out, somebody used it, recycled it, and then it came back and they made another product out of it. So these are all of these notebooks. If you're welcome to have them, I put them out there on the table for you to have them. Next week we're going to talk about recycling, because I touched on that just a little bit, and it's a big topic. So we're going to talk about recycling, how to do it, what recycles, what doesn't recycle, and the best way to do that. So does anyone have anything before we close on this? Yes, Pat. Hang on, give the mic.
I just wanted to say that even when I was an 8th grader, I taught the kids about recycling a long time ago. And I've always done it, and I care about it, and I talk to people about it too.
Yeah, good. So. And education is key. Louise talks about drip education, which like I said, there's so much, and just educating people a little bit at a time about things that you can do. Yes, Sue?
Just one thing that we're asking you to do here is we've got all the cups cleaned and the thing that's on cleaned, and so we're asking that you use regular cups for coffee, and then you walk yourself into the kitchen and you open up that dishwasher and you put your own cup in the dishwasher, please.
And we are. I'm so proud of our church for all of the things that we have been doing. As we know more, we do things differently. You know, for the shelter, we bought Corel plates instead of having stuff that we throw away. We're using real silverware and washing that. We're using the cups. We're not using styrofoam. We appreciate sometimes people will bring things in for us to use. If you're going to do that, we appreciate that, but bring things in that are compostable or recyclable. We don't want any things that are plastic or styrofoam. So I so appreciate your input. I appreciate all of you being here, and I just want you to remember in your daily lives and the decisions that you're making. You know, one of the things that I keep telling myself is I am addicted to convenience when I'm in the store. And so that changes the way I shop. That changes the things that I do. So I so appreciate that. We have some announcements, is that right?
Yeah. Would you like to read them? Would you like me to read them?
You can read them. Come up here and get on the little camera.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mary. Here.
Hey, thank you, Mary. Oh, look at that. I can really do that. That was wonderful. I really like the there's no such thing as a way. All right. Thank you to all of our 19 volunteers who came to spruce up the grounds in our building. Looks great out there. Today is the last day to sign up to sponsor an Easter lily. You designate the purpose of your commemoration, and your contribution is $15. The New Thought World Religion class on April 9th will be Mary Hilsabeck-Huber again, talking trash part 2, tips on reducing and repurposing waste. James Masters' Let There Be Light Spirit group starts tonight at 6:30. For more information, check out the webpage at unityofspringfield.org. The pod is here to receive your donations for the indoor yard sale during Planet Unity. No clothing or large furniture for this sale. Pod is unlocked Sunday mornings, Monday through Thursday, 10 to 4, and by appointment. And remember to stay today for our potluck and welcome to our new members. Even if you did not bring anything, you are invited.
Thank you.
Thank you.